Sarai Namor, trauma therapist and transformational growth coach, a survivor of complex PTSD, and the founder and director of Trinity CMHC in Miami Lakes, Florida, and the nonprofit Champions. I'm sorry, Circle of Champions Worldwide, and that's how we met. Um, Sarai helps you discover that greatness and developing positive meaning by giving you the tools necessary to make a greater impact in your life through conscious living and discovery of who you truly are. That is the authentic you. And I just want to say really quick, when I first started this journey of wanting to speak and wanted to step out and do coaching and things like that, Sarai was one of the first people that I kind of reached out to. I was doing trauma coaching at that time, and she was, she does a lot of trauma informed information and things like that. And oh my gosh, she opened up her platform with open arms to me. She's like, "You want to be a speaker? You want to do this event with me?" and things. I was like, "Oh my gosh, yes!" I'm so nervous, and she was just like, "Nope, don't be scared. You can do it. This is what you're gonna do," and that's just how it went. But my gosh, she's always been so very, very supportive of everything, and I love the work that you do. My goodness. And I know you have a few things lined up after this also, but she didn't even hesitate. This is my first event, and I reached out to her and I'm like, "Would you think you could be a speaker?" She's like, "What? Yes." um, Anything you want to do, I'm going to support you in it. So I'm forever grateful for you. Thank you so very, very much. I love
Thank you
you.
so much.
And
Thank you so much
I'm going to
for
pass it over
having me
to
and
you.
saying that. I'm so happy, like, like what you said, that things happen as they should, because that story is such a perfect setup for everything I'm gonna say right now. Because I don't just talk about it, I am about it. Like, I don't, it doesn't matter like where you're starting. I don't even care. I care about like that vision you have about yourself, because that's the truth. And most people, like Les Brown says, most people never, ever, their dreams die, and they're gone. So the minute you say yes, I'm gonna grab your hand and I'm gonna run with you. We're gonna go, guys. But all right, so yes, I'm all of that. But I wasn't always like this at all. I wasn't always like this. I know I don't have a lot of time, so I'll shorten my story. But I grew up here in a part called Hialeah, Florida. And it's a very, I would say, very little Cuba, especially at the time when I was growing up here. It was definitely little Cuba. You don't even need to speak English to live there. And I grew up, I lived in 17 houses by the time I was 16. Some of those moves were good moves, they were level ups. But there was a time that they weren't good. There was a time that we were basically homeless. And my brother and I were kicked, we were just, I felt like we were getting kicked around from house to house. Nobody really wanted us. We were the troubled kids. And we went from house to house with little, garbage bags with all of our belongings in one plastic garbage bag from house to house. That's why I have so much affinity towards foster kids, which is a lot of what we do in our agency. I was never a foster kid, but I felt like a foster kid because I wouldn't last in any home. And I would, I would say something wrong to their children, and they're like, "Oh, we don't want her in the house." So then we'd get kicked out. But I went to 3 elementaries, 2 middle schools, and 2 high schools before getting kicked out of high school too, and being sent to opportunity school, where I was like, "Well, I'm not going because I'm gonna get my ass kicked." So I quit. I was like, "I'm not going there." And then it was, it's a whole life of that's why I really resonate with Corey's story, because Corey, you might as well have been someone I grew up with. Like we're from the same type of background. And I living in so many places, going through so much. We were really just a consequence to parents. I have parents that loved us, but they were so immature that they couldn't, emotionally immature, that they couldn't be good parents to us. There was a lot of neglect. There was a lot of anger, hostility, and all of that sort of poured into my brother, who then became my abuser. And he became my abuser because since he was 14, he was going in and out of jail. And every time he'd go to jail and come back out, he was a little bigger and a little stronger, and I was his target. And he was like, he had me training. He had me training for whatever he thought. I was going to jail. I had to be hard. So this is the brother I grew up with, and I'm older than him. So it was really hard because at some point, even though I'm a year older than him, at some point he was bigger and stronger than me. And at some point, it was really a life and death situation. It became that because I was like Jennifer Lopez in that movie where it's like somebody's gonna die here, and it ain't me. So I got to that point, and so I was like, you know what, I have to. No one's gonna protect me. A big incident happened, and I thought, no one's gonna protect me. I had already been slammed into walls. My ribs have been broken. Like so many things had happened already that I had to choose myself. And so that's where my transformation started. But I want to tell everyone that just because you choose yourself, your transformation isn't instant. I'm still in my transformation and I'm 54. So but it does start with a decision. So my decision to choose myself led me to leave the state of Florida. And the way I left was, okay, I was thinking I'm going to the Navy or the Army or something, but then I discovered that I could live off student loans. So I went and I got my GED, and that's where, that's the kickoff to my transformation, where I lived in California. I went to school in Kansas. I got my bachelor's in a small town in Kansas, little, Cuban girl me in Kansas. That was a whole experience, but then I came back to Florida. And although I did start my transformation at that time, pretty much around, I would say around 20 years old, all my 20s, I was suffering with these mental health issues from my trauma, from my complex PTSD. Of course, I didn't know it was complex PTSD, but I was constantly having, panic attacks. My biggest wound was the abandonment of my parents. And then secondary was the abuse of my brother. But really, that just amplified the abandonment because in his abuse, no one was there for me. So I had to realize that no one was going to save me. And I had to take like radical self responsibility and make hard choices, which was to leave Florida. And so that's pretty much what started me off. And, like I think someone said it here, I think it was Joy, that said it, there's no real bad things that happen because all of these experiences that we have really shine a light on what's meant to be our purpose. So the people that I serve are people who are, energetically and spiritually so much like me. And a lot of what I do is help people out of the darkness. I help people in ways that I was never helped. And the people that did help me are people that don't really know me, like Tony Robbins, because it wasn't until 33 that I already had my master's degree. I already had 2 kids. I was married, looking perfect on the outside while totally screwed up on the inside. And it wasn't until 33 that I got into self-development, which is why I believe in this so much, that my life went to a whole other level of transformation. So I say that because I want everyone to know that transformation is in levels. There's no end to it. It's like saying, how much water can we pour into the ocean before it spills out? There's no spilling out. It'll overflow into land, but there's no spilling out. And that's how vast our potential is. That's how vast our reach is. But we don't see that because we're limited by our past. We're limited by the things that happen to us. And we don't see things like God sees it. So God sees we're full of potential. We're born with full of potential, but then the things happen and it starts minimizing our view of what's possible for us. But I want you to know that your potential is as limitless as the ocean. The capacity of the ocean is limitless. It's not going to fall out into the universe. None of that's going to happen. But that's how each of us is an ocean. Each of us has that vast capacity. And so I just want you to know that that's why when Joy, reached out, and Joy, the way I treat Joy is the way I treat everyone. Everyone that tells me, "Hey, I want to do this," I'm like, "Let's do it." I'm ready. Let's go. I believe in you, and I don't even know you. And it's so people think like, "Oh, that's hypocritical." No, it's not hypocritical because I know if you're here, if you're each of us is a miracle, and the miracle in you exists. So I don't need to know what your miracle is. I just believe in you. I inherently believe in you because I know that you're amazing. I don't even care what your story is. I don't care what happened to you. I don't care what you've done to yourself, because all of that I've done to myself, all through my 20s and all for forever. Even now, there's always parts of us that are very self-destructive. And even if I'm standing here, and a lot of times I worked really hard on looking perfect to the world. So a lot of times, even in that perfect look, even in that perfection, I was being self-destructive. So that's the one thing that really stops us from our potential. By the way, I'm totally off of what I was actually going to say. So let me get back. I think we all do this. I pray to God, like, just lead my spirit to what people need to hear. So I trust whatever I'm saying, somebody out there needs to, it's touching someone. But I want you to know, the three things I believe in. I want you to know the three things I believe in. I believe that we all have a version of ourselves that is the best and highest expression of who we are. We all know our lowest expression because we all know our own secrets of how low we've been, the things we've done, those things that shame us, and all of that. But I want you to know that we also have our highest and best, most radiant expression. I get goosebumps when I say that because I feel it so deep inside of me. And I know all of you here are my people. I know all of you here believe in this radiance, I also believe that we have the potential to become that version of ourselves now and in this lifetime. We talk a lot about lifetimes. In this lifetime, this is what our purpose is to radiate and become the highest expression for ourselves. What happens later, I don't know. There's more lifetimes, I have no idea. I don't know. But as an energy source, we need to be, vibrating at a whole other level. And it's possible for all of us. But I also believe that if we don't say yes to our transformational growth journey, and if we don't say yes to our healing that leads to the expansion of our soul, we will never, ever get to meet that greatest expression of ourselves. So I'm out here trying to save some souls. And I'm not talking about, going to heaven. I'm talking about, I'm trying to save your soul's purpose. We each have a purpose. I don't care what happens to us. So today I'm gonna talk to you about the three things that I've discovered in my own life that have helped me transform. Looking back, I could identify what these things are, and these are the things I do with my clients as well. And these are, like I said, these are ever evolving and continuous processes. We don't ever reach the land of healing. We might reach a higher, more healed version of ourselves, but as soon as you get there, all of a sudden you're like, wow, I need to go to this other level. And also, that doesn't mean you're never going to get triggered. A lot of people, and I want to say that that's so important to know, because a lot of times we go so far in our healing, and then here comes 3 years later, we're all of a sudden triggered and pulled back into this emotional state that we thought we were over. And then we beat ourselves up and we think like, oh, I must not be healed. And it's like, no, we still have memory. We still have core memory, and those wounds are there even though they're healed. And I can't call the men in black and zap you and make all your memories go away. So they are actually still there. They're still there, and they have the potential, that if I have a wound here that I have a wrist that fractured, and it could be sensitive sometimes, not always, but it could be sensitive at times. So it's part of our own self-compassion and kindness towards ourselves to not beat ourselves up when we get triggered. That trigger and that emotional trigger in us is actually meant to take you to your next level of healing. And you got to ask, what is this emotion trying to tell me at this point in time? You layer into certain healing, but when it shows up again, what else is there that I haven't discovered? What else is there that right now my subconscious mind wants me to know, but it knew I couldn't know this 3 years ago, for example? So that is a very different way of thinking and looking at your emotional states and the triggers that you go through. So I'm going to get into the three parts that are the three main keys, the three main processes that I go through with my clients. And they're in steps, but they're also constantly happening. So my first step is healing. So I believe that healing our wounded parts is absolutely necessary. We can't skip the part of not healing our wounded parts. That doesn't mean that we're gonna live in those memories And it doesn't mean that we're going to just talk about it for a whole year. I don't believe in that at all. But it does mean that we need to return to those and become aware. This is where you become aware. You have to become aware of the meaning that you gave to those events. Because if you don't become aware of that, you're unable to change the core beliefs that are driving your behaviors currently. So we need to become aware of those core beliefs. We need to become aware of our memories and how we stack them up and what we said about it and what we said about people and what we said about ourselves and about the world, so that now as an adult, we could choose more empowering ways of thinking. We could choose more empowering ways of feeling, because that's all going to lead to the actions that you take and the decisions that you make. Sorry if I'm yelling, guys. I feel like I'm yelling now. Like, listen, this is what we got to do. All right. So step number 2 is going to be transformation. And transformation, it's ever evolving, but it's also a daily choice. And that's what happens when we overcome toxic fear. Overcoming toxic fear means that you you stop being the person you had to become to survive, so that you could become the person you need to be to thrive. So if you could just like cement that into your mind, every day you have to choose to be the person that's going to get you over there. But we spend so much time looking back there, remembering back there, and just constantly thinking about it, that it actually pulls us into continuing to be that person that created that situation. So we gotta, compassionately let go of that part of us, let go of those things that no longer exist, keep our vision ahead of us. And we each have a vision. God gave each one of us a vision of what is meant for you. And it's different. And we have similar visions. We have similar ideas of our identity in the world, but they're all different. So whatever was uniquely given to you in visuals, or given to you through things that you hear, because we all receive it differently, through whatever it is, that believe that, and then ask yourself, who do I need to become? What are the things I need to do? How do I need to change my personality, the way I talk, the way I walk, the way I show up, the way I relate? How do I need to change my mindset? How do I need to change all of this so that I could be the type of person that can reach that? Because that vision exists and it's real. It's like it's a picture of one potential for you. But I don't believe it's just going to happen just because the vision was given to you. It's going to happen if you make the daily choice to be courageous. If you make the daily choice to step into the person that you need to be to do that. So I'm going to give you a quick little story to make this real for you. I used to be very aggressive, and a lot of people were scared. I was not approachable. I was like, you know what? Like, somebody mess with me, I was instantly threatening you. I'll put a bomb in your house. I used to actually say stuff like this to people. So I would be like, oh, I'll put a bomb in your house. And I wouldn't do it this calm. I'll be jumping up and down, pointing in your head. Like, I would do all this. So then I evolved into a not inappropriate. But I evolved. I was still being aggressive in my tone, in my delivery, and all that. So I had to practice being different, because that version of me wasn't gonna get me in the doors that I needed to get into. I can't do it by force. So my male energy was intense. Of course, after I just told you my story, you could understand that, wow, I needed to have major dominant male energy just to survive my house. But that wasn't gonna carry me on into the life that I want. And I'm still trying to tap into my feminine energy. And guys, I'm very feminine. I do my nails, my lashes, my hair, but my inside was not, it was like, listen, like, I'll scare you, but this is why me and Corey are like, I was like, listen to her, I'm like, oh, I get you. But there was a time that I needed to learn something different, because at my agency, we were doing a lot of work with foster kids, the courthouse, lawyers, judges, and none of those people scared me. Like, I was actually being very aggressive towards them too. And I realized, like, I can't be having these meetings and showing up like, Jennifer from the block. I can't be doing that. So so I had a therapist with me that, even though she had been through similar things I had been to, she found a way to express herself in a very respectful, calm way and still say what she needed to say. So in these meetings, I started telling myself, What would Sandy say? What would Sandy say? What was and then I became Sandy in the meeting to where now I'm able to have these meetings. I'm talking about this was a few years ago. It was like 8 years ago. But I had to practice, and I had a model. I had a model. We don't have to invent the wheel. I had a model of someone who was next to me. I hired her as a supervisor, but she would do it so beautifully and still slap them in the face. So I was like, I gotta do it like that. How do I do it? And I would just tell myself, what would Sandy do? What would Sandy do? And I would get through all these things, and now I'm able to do it. So in that same way, you guys, all of us, could look at the vision of the person that we're meant to be because of that vision that we have, and say, okay, how did that person show up in life? How did that person talk? And then choose to be that person. Call that person whatever you want to call it, and then say, okay, what would that person do? Let me do it and practice. It's practice. It's not. It's really not. Make it. What is that saying? Fake it till you make it. It's not about faking it till you make it, because that person is already existing inside of you. It's like the statue of the David. The David was already in that stone. We just got to chisel out the parts that are no longer serving you. Those parts have to be removed so that David and you could show up. Hopefully that makes a lot of sense. And I want you to know that that's part of number 2. That's part of your transformation. Number 3 is everything I just said as well. Number 3 is thriving. And again, thriving is not something we do in our mind. Thriving is not something we wish for and we believe for. Thriving is your daily choice to thrive with everything that I just said. Thriving is the direct result of the courageous daily leaps or actions that we choose to take. Joynette choosing to do this event, that is her thriving. This is going to level her up in ways that she can't imagine. My choice to one day just boom, do Circle of Champions group on Facebook. That sounds so insignificant, but that led to the last 5 years of my life where I've met, it's not even in the hundreds anymore. Now it's in the thousands. I've met thousands of people. I'm doing an event in 2 weeks, and I feel bad about, like, I have so many speakers, but I want to stick so many more speakers in there. Like, I want everyone to hear every single story. And right now I'm like at 22 speakers. And then a lot of times this is my 5th event. And a lot of times when I do these events, I put so many speakers in that I chisel myself out. And then I can't even speak. I end up just like, just promoting people. And I'm a promoter of each person because that's my passion. My true passion is finding you and just blowing you up into the person that you were meant to be. Like, that excites me so much to turn people into their greatness. So this is these 3 steps, which is healing, transforming, and thriving, and then turning that into a tornado of constantly healing, transforming, and thriving, because we do this every day. Every day we have to heal a little bit, transform a little bit, and do the courageous acts to thrive. And every day, if you do that a little bit every day, who would you be a year from now? Who would you be 5 years from now? Like, who have I become in the last 5 years? Who has Joy become in the last 5 years, basically, because I think that's how long I've known her for. Who have I become from my 20s? I'll put a bomb in your house, having panic attacks, high school dropout, to having a master's degree, having a home where my 3 kids have never moved from here. They moved out of here once. We moved out once and came back, but they have a stable home. I lived in 17 houses. That is terrifying. It is terrifying to live out of the 17. 5 were houses that were just people letting us live there. That is the most scariest thing. That was the most scariest time of my life. And we didn't have no cell phones back then. I couldn't contact my parents. I didn't know when they were coming to visit me. That was very, very scary. That was probably my most traumatic experience because I felt so abandoned. I felt so alone. I was so scared. And in that, I did a lot of self-destructive stuff to see if my parents would notice. And guess what? They didn't. Nobody noticed. So it's like, wow, I could do anything. And no one will notice that I'm literally just falling apart here. Like, even I was like, wow, even if I died, no one would notice. So that when you think of that, that makes you feel so alone in the world. And that has been the greatest wound that I've had to overcome. And honestly, I'm gonna be 55 in July. And it's only been in the last 5 years that I've really tackled that and finally feel like that abandonment wound is doesn't bother me. It's not hurting me anymore. It's all, so this is why I'm telling you, like, this whole healing and transformation takes a long time, but along the way you will have wins. It's not an overnight thing when you make that decision to do that. So I'm not here to present, like I said, I'm not here to present you any magical stuff. It really is the work. It's a continuous, ever evolving process and a commitment to the self-love that the other person that spoke here was talking about. It's a commitment to yourself. Discipline, having the discipline to thrive and do the things you need to do, is the greatest act of self-love that you could do for yourself. Discipline is self-love, because I guarantee that most of us here that are so empathetic, most of us here, if someone else needed us, we'd be there in 2 seconds. But then if we put on our schedule, go to the gym, start eating healthy, go to that therapist, when we look at that, it's so easy to go, you know what, not today. But yet, if it was someone else, we'd be running to do it for them. So we need to learn how to be disciplined for ourselves and understand that self-discipline equals self-love. No self-discipline, no self-commitment means, literally means, you don't feel worthwhile to dedicate that time or money. Like hiring a coach, hiring a therapist is the greatest act of self-love, because that is going to get you the skills that you need to be that person you need to be, to get to where that vision that we're talking about. And I have invested probably like $100,000 on myself, because I love myself and I love who I'm becoming. Every day I'm excited, and I wasn't always like this, but I am so excited to see what else I could do, so that I could prove to the world that just because my upbringing was effed up, and just because I was abandoned, and just because I'm a high school dropout, and just because all of those things, because I would say I was going to put a bomb in your house, just because of all of that, that doesn't mean that I don't have a gift inside of me. I want to be the good news, and I show the good news through me, through my life story. We are all sharing the good news through our life stories, through our overcoming. And I love what somebody said it here. I think it was Corey, that he said, your story is, you have to give your story to others. Wow, that was so powerful. That really resonates with me, because our story isn't for ourselves. He's right. Our story is the blueprint for someone else to overcome. I want to challenge you guys, that if you haven't, you took the radical action, to be here. You took the radical action to be present, whether you have your camera on or off, but you're here for a reason, like Joy said. You're here for a reason. Your soul brought you here. And you're here because you are ready for your transformation. So take some of these things into account and allow yourself to envision that higher version of yourself. It starts with a vision. Just write it out. This is my challenge for you. This week, take the time, give yourself the time through your discipline and your self-commitment. Write out, as if you were writing a script in a movie and you're the main character. Write out yourself, the character of you, what your greatest version is. What would you be doing if you were at that higher level? What would you be doing if you were healed and you didn't have fear holding you back? What would be happening in your life? What kind of a father or mother would you be? What kind of, who would you let go of? That's a big one. Who would you let go of? Because we all got to let go of some people. There's some people that are anchors in our life. And for someone like me, and like all of us who has had big time, but has still big time abandonment wounds, letting go of people, my God, that is the hardest challenge there is. Letting go of people that are holding me back, making me sick, because I truly believe that, holding on to situations and people gave me this high blood pressure that I have. Because we all that suffer trauma have, we all have some type of physical thing happening, because it's like Letitia said, we just hold it and we push it down, and it becomes this real energetic thing that energy has nowhere to go but to become an illness. So you owe it to yourself, guys. I'm pleading with you. I'm pleading with you. I'm pleading for you to allow your highest version, your highest self to show up, so that you could gift the world with what you're meant to gift the world. It's not an accident that you're here. You're here to impact lives, whether that life is your kid's life, your mother's life, your neighbor's life, even if it's one life, who cares? You're here to impact someone's life, and it won't happen from your lower self. It's only going to happen from your higher self. In between that, you're just playing. You're just playing and wasting time. You're just letting the clock tick. And my brother died. My brother died in 2020. That was very impactful for me too, because I was like, oh wow, he never got his healing. He never got it. And forever I had survivor's guilt because I I removed myself from Florida, and he did it. And he became very prominent drug dealer. Yeah, he had the life. He traveled, had the life, and did all that. But a lot of things came with that. A lot of at least 16 people that I grew up with. I have a picture, and at least 16 people, and they're dead. A bunch of others are just coming out of prison over the last 5 years. And that's major trauma. They had like 18 years in prison, basically their whole life. It's a lot of trauma. And then here I am, I left and came back, and here I am with the master's degree and doing all the stuff that I do. And that's a lot of survivor's guilt for someone like me. And then my brother dying and seeing that his greatness never displayed. That was very big for me. So I'm here fighting for all of your lives, because that's how I fight for. That's the only thing I can do. I can't bring him back, but you're here, and you guys have it in you too. We all have it in us. So thank you. My name is Saraina Moore, and I believe that it doesn't matter what you've been through, or what they've done to you, or what you've done to yourself. None of that matters, in terms of making your life dreams come true and you becoming the highest expression of you.